talk about the scandals, not a scandal.
The scandals?
The scandals.
Let's begin from there.
Why? Because this involves human beings, me and you.
Okay.
We have had trouble in the Ministry of Health for the last 20 years.
20 years?
More than 20 years.
Wow.
Okay? If you recall, at one time there was the medical stores. Okay? And as you know, medical stores phased out. Now there is a detail, and we can't exhaust it in this interview.
Okay.
But there is something you cannot take away. What you can't take away is that there is another problem.
What is that problem?
That problem is as revealed by the ambassador.
Okay.
Okay, that look, there are concerns, and one of the concerns could lead to this, to the minimizing of assistance.
Okay.
Okay. I think I want to be comfortable with dealing with that.
Okay.
In the sense that I also want to be comfortable in accepting the fact that both the Minister of Health and the ambassador agree on one thing.
Okay.
That there's been theft of medicines. They don't agree on the methods of approach, but they all agree that something must be done.
Okay.
Now the ambassador is not happy with the pace of what is not being done. Now let me say this. Fairness, equity and justice are an extremely important thing when dealing with government matters. Why? It is possible that you may act in haste and do something dangerous to a human being. So in other words, people have been accused, and I'm mindful of the fact that you've got many innocent health workers. We also have a duty towards us.
Okay.
We must not paint the medical, medical personnel, medical environment. Let's not paint it negatively.
Okay.
Let's pluck out the challenge which is there, and that is where the ambassador's voice comes in. Because he is saying, can you do something about what is happening?
Okay.
And the government is saying we are doing something about it. Okay? And that's the balance which you and me must do. The government is saying they are doing something. Now, there is a difference between an illegal government or a government which is illegitimate and a government, which is a rogue government. We don't have a rogue government in Zambia, and Zambia has been so lucky not to have a rogue government at all. We've never had that. So for me, I would be saying, the most we can do is to say to government, can you hasten the speed? That's a fair demand. That's a fair request.
Okay.
And can we ensure that, we provide whatever answers must be provided to all the stakeholders. The stakeholders include taxpayers in other countries, taxpayers in Zambia, other donors. So the issue should not be minimized to, on one hand, the Zambian government, on the other, the American government. No.
Okay.
There are many other stakeholders. You and me are stakeholders. We have choices to make.
Okay.
The choice that we must make, we must answer a difficult question. The question which I've asked so many times. I ask it, what do Zambians want? Because remember with the Dr. Blaya, remember with that man who went around with whatever you call it, something around his neck? Okay, then we had the Kapoko saga, then we had drugs imported from wherever which are expired. Of course, we went through all those things. So I would be saying, and I'm saying, it would be good to build on what you have done and move on. If you recall, there was a time when Zambia was making drugs, but the government was to go.
Yes.
I don't know the detail of whatever happened, but I know it's no longer there. Now, one of the things that we must be able to do is to accept the fact that when you are dealing with this issue, the government cannot be seized with dealing only with the health issue. They must deal with the other issues as well. I mean, for instance, who does not know in Zambia that there are fertilizer scandals? Who doesn't know about the fair tender scandals? So for me, I prefer a holistic approach. I don't want us to get involved in finger pointing because the result will be zero.
Okay.
I'm more interested in us saying, okay, look, an issue has come on the table. Is it a fair issue? Yes, it is a fair issue. What are you doing about it? There is a forensic audit which has been done. I want to take hold of it and be able to comment intelligently on what is happening, as opposed to talk from without. And I still insist that it is important that we allow investigations to continue.
Okay.
But they must not be open-ended. They must be conclusive. Now, one of the things which I used to think was an issue before I engaged in legal studies at some point,
Okay.
was that I thought that if somebody is detained in the police, for instance, it's a bad thing for them to put him or her in the cells.
Okay.
But you will be put in the cells either because there is a problem and you can't run away, or because of your safety. So when you have been put in the cells, it is because there are various considerations. If you are left out, like if you bash somebody and you're driving, the police will come to the police. Because if you stay there, there is a chance somebody might attack you.
Okay.
So here the issue is that there is a development which is erupted. There is a choice to go around media stations to explain it, or to say, when there is this issue, what are you going to do about it? Because it's grossly unfair to have taxpayers' money. Okay? And I use taxpayers' money generically. Taxpayers in Zambia, in America, in England, in Australia, whatever it may be, okay, they pay tax so that their government is functioning. Now, I am insisting, as I've said before, I know of no government which is owned by a political party.
Okay.
There is none. So this business of saying that this government belongs to UNIP, this government belongs to MMD, this government belongs to PF or UPND, it needs to come to an end.
Okay.
What you have is a Zambian government, which is GRZ, Government of the Republic of Zambia. There is nothing like GNU, Government of the Republic of Union. There's nothing like that. There is nothing which talks about the government of MMD, nothing which talks about the government of PF, nothing which talks about the government of UPND. There is a Zambian government which is led at any one point in time by a political party.
Okay.
There was UNIP, MMD, PF, right? Now UPND. Those are administrations. The government from day one has never changed. It's been the same government. Now the government has been infected with a problem of corruption. Now if we agree by the definition of what the government is, it is the duty of you and me, each and every Zambian, to cure the problem.
Okay.
Because here, it is easier to cancel a contract. Okay? You can cancel a contract. If this is a contract, for instance, we cancel it. Yes, we've cancelled it. But then what do you do with the pilferage? Because pilferage or theft of medicines as outlined is done by individuals with access. It's done by individuals of which have access. I can tell you, I think I've seen so much stories said about ZAMSA and the Ministry of Health. But I don't hear as much about other agencies like ZAMRA, who are probably the right people probably, the right people to deal with the issues of the post-ZAMSA end, when ZAMSA distributes what's next.
Okay.
At least I have gone to a facility where a drug is prescribed for me, and I'm told it's not there. And I go back, I said, they say it's not there. Then somebody says, wait, and it comes.
Within the facility?
Yes, and I also know that we one time asked somebody to go and check in a facility, and they were saying the drug was not there, but the drug had been sent there by the ministry. So let's not run away from our own problems as Zambians. I heard a politician speaking on radio today, And trust me, I felt so sorry for you guys in the media.
Why, Mr. Mwanajiti?
I felt sorry because the person was lying.
Okay.
And I cannot come on to your station here and begin lying. Because I'm not being fair to you, I'm not being fair to myself, I'm not being fair to Zambian citizens.
Okay.
Go on air, be truthful, be informed. There is no substitute. There is no substitute for a person who is properly informed, well-baked. If you move away from that situation, one of the things which concerns me, and should concern you,
Okay.
the levels of illiteracy in this country are too high, to the extent where people give comments on something they don't understand at all.
Why is it like that, Mr. Mwanajiti? From your experience?
From my little experience, I think the challenge is that you get to a point where Zambians kind of like distance or disengage themselves from the governance process.
Okay.
And begin to rely on, depend on individuals. I was on air a few weeks ago on the Cyber Security Act. And the lady called very angry that this law is a bad law. And I said, okay, let's be more methodical about it. Which aspect don't you like or are you uncomfortable with? Then she talked and I explained to her that one of the cures that was being seen was the fact that sanity was returning to the, because we don't find people insulting recklessly anymore. Then she says, you mean people are insulting, I don't support it, if that's the case.
Okay.
So quite clearly there are many people who are taking part in debates that they know nothing about. Debates which will not in any way, howsoever say, help them. This country, this economy needs to be reconstructed. As simple as that. And I say that from what I know. I have traveled the world. You can't tell me stories. Zambians must take ownership of where they want to go. Now in doing that, I want to be careful and cautious and say that we cannot take ownership. We cannot take ownership by embracing activities which undo us. And one activity which undoes us is theft.
Okay.
The theft can be either official or theft as we know it in a petty form. It is theft in my view, or it is grand corruption in my view, where you give yourself embedded contracts. Okay? And as I have said, corruption, whether it's petty or grand, is a big problem.
Okay.
Petty corruption can be cancerous. It can be so difficult to deal with. Grand corruption, which could be in a contract, you can cancel a contract. You can cancel a contract because it's defective. But you can't manage and arrest somebody who is stealing medicines unless we deal with the mindset change. If you steal from here, you are stealing from your employers, and because of doing that, the organization will go under. Is that what we want? You have seen it in the context of bank failures. Do we want to be waking up every morning and read headlines, this bank is in trouble? I read somewhere where somebody accessed money at a bank. Okay?
So it's in one of the daily tabloids.
Yes, I saw it. I said, but this is grossly unfortunate. And trust me, the Cyber Security Act is very good in terms of arresting hemorrhage in that respect. Who doesn't know about hackers, scammers? Do we want those people? No, we don't. We really do not.
Okay.
They don't contribute in any way. Now, if there is a fear, let's address it.
Okay.
That's why we are here as a people. If there is a concern, let's address the concern. But please don't ask me to address the concern which is wrapped in illegality. What do I mean? If you, Joe, you run away from the law and want to make me your friend, I must refuse because I will be an accomplice. And I do not want to be an accomplice to wrongdoing. If you are doing wrong, the law must visit you. There are no two ways about it.
Okay. Mr. Mwanajiti, quite a mouthful. Let me draw your attention rather to what you said. You talked about what kind of Zambia do the Zambians want?
Yes.
What do they want? From your experience, you have been around, you have traveled the world. What have you observed? What do Zambians want? How do we begin to identify what we want as a people moving forward?
So one of the things that we must laud and commend and seriously reflect on is the aspect of free education.
Okay.
Okay? Yes, there are challenges, such as overcrowding. But trust me, you are better off having those kids in class and taught and having them to be on the streets.
Okay.
So the question should be, is there a facility for ensuring that the issues of overcrowding are dealt with? Yes, there is. What the hell are we dealing with the CDF? CDF was first introduced in the 90s, late 90s.
Yes.
And the bill, I remember, I think it was tabled by Newton Money, was Deputy Minister of Finance. Then I think, but you have to check that.
Okay.
And the amount did not grow because now it became a tool for control, a tool for manipulation. It didn't grow until 2021.
Okay.
Now, can you imagine if CDF had been growing? You are able to talk about development in context. You are not going to be talking about development when you're only waiting for central government. I think there should be a process where the two merge.
Okay.
If you look at the road sector, for instance, I'm aware that local government, councils are in charge of the roads in the council. Okay, but the big arrangements are left to government. I think let's try to look at what works for us. So in answering your question, it's true. We must answer the question, what do Zambians want? Do you want to be waiting to hear about a scandal? Do you want citizens who are informed, who can say, but this post, for instance, how can you peddle an argument that there is a fight between the government and the church? Is that possible? It's not possible. But if you are not thinking, you can see it that way. If you are not thinking, because who does not know? Who does not know the head of the particular church? Okay? If he speaks for the church on that issue, my issue again is very simple. They know the procedures that they have. So when you have a party to a particular arrangement, breaking through the arrangement to deal with issues outside the arrangement, this is where you find that, again, if I to go legalese, you will not find any lawyer disagreeing with the judge when they have lost the matter. They will say they are much obliged and they will seek for an appeal. So they buy second bite of the shell. But you don't lose your matter or your issue elsewhere, and then you go and begin talking outside. Because clearly where it matters, you have not made your case. So you've gone somewhere else.
Okay.
So it's as good as window shopping. So for me, there is an issue. We must deal with that issue. There are not ways.
Okay.
There is an issue, and the good thing about those things, there is agreement. And the issues exist where we are different in the method. And that is normal. It is not possible for us to agree on everything. We are disagreeing on that area, and the people who are germane, who are important to this particular issue, they must rally around and find a solution because that's what they're paid. That would be my take.
Now, Mr. Mwanajiti, in agreeing or in moving forward and deciding together that this is what the Zambian people want, how do we do that? Because they are obviously national interests, right? And we have seen different political parties come and go. So now this political party comes with its own agenda. This other one comes with its own agenda. but the challenges that the majority Zambians or that Zambia faces still remain. How do we reconcile that?
No, that's a very important question. So the party comes, you are assuming the party has campaigned.
Yes.
Now, that's what the problem is. You cannot sway people and move development on the basis of falsehoods.
Okay.
Now, when you have a people who can interrogate, who can do question, that is, you can tell them anything. Which is why in countries like Germany, Switzerland, where I've lived, they okay, you must as a party make your point before your people.
Okay.
But because you know your people, they will understand, they will appreciate. But you have a situation where people basically have been left by the same government, okay, to fend for themselves. In other words, African governments are guilty of one thing: pauperizing their populations.
Okay.
And you don't have to go to some neighboring countries. There are no roads. So how can you communicate? And that was designed. And you ask questions. I mean, there are basic things you can ask. Let's look at our curriculum. Okay?
Okay.
Then you ask a question. This curriculum, why would you be teaching a child in this era European history at the expense of indigenous history? Or why would you want a child to be so knowledgeable about the grasshopper as opposed to be knowledgeable about basic things such as how do you grow what you must eat? To what extent can we say that fertilizer is a good thing? Should we not be protecting the local seeds in the context of hybrid seeds? Those are the real issues that we must be discussing. Because if you want to go deeper and say our resources, again you are caught up in one issue. Exploiting resources will take you to the issue of, potential. Okay? The potential must be actualized. How do you actualize it? Simple partnerships. The guy comes with their money, you come with your resource, which is your land. Trust me, it is an impossibility to ask someone to come with their money, invest their money, without any form of guarantees for keeping the money. You have to give them proper guarantees. And there's a template. Just look at what China did. China is not here where it is by accident. No. It was methodically planned and executed. And you can't tell me that China is a pushover now. You can't. I won't believe you. But China comes from a reasonably bad background. But they worked hard. India, another example. India said we can't be having issues of hunger in our country. Let's produce as much rice as we can. You saw how government responded when there was a disaster in terms of the drought. How many Zambians died? As far as I don't know. But that was no accident. Just yesterday, I saw it on one of the TV stations. There was an appeal, a misplaced appeal by a young person who was saying that government must extend the emergency cash transfer. Yeah, emergency cash transfer. Now, does he know what an emergency cash transfer is? Because that emergency was a response to a particular crisis.
At that
given time. Okay. So, but the point is, when I was doing nothing, but I hope this young person is had an opportunity to go to school. Because at one time there was no opportunity. There was no opportunity for somebody. So you have a situation where people say those who are educated. No, it should not be like that. We shouldn't have a situation where you have to search very hard to find something. And I'm not just talking about just having a paper, because there are some people with papers who cannot do what must be done. I'm talking about somebody who is properly educated. Okay? So at the end of the day, when you have a nation which is seized with good education, You were able to analyze issues. You were able to say, okay, this one is saying this. I mean, it's so sad when you have a situation where somebody is talking, you don't even want to say, okay, what is making them talk now? Why is somebody going to radio stations? All this time they have been quiet. What happened? What prompted them to talk? There is a way that you can explain anything you want to explain.
Okay.
Without, you remember any decision you make, when you make a decision, it must be good when you make it. It must be good tomorrow. It must be good thereafter. A decision which is lacking in those three components is wanting in many ways. And that is an area where emotions dominate.
Okay.
Once you use emotions in what you do, challenges will visit you. That would be my idea.
Okay. Now, Mr. Mwanajiti, making progress, you have touched on a number of issues, and I want to find out from you. You have been around. There has been a concern. For instance, from this administration, there are those that believe that, there are members, that is, that believe that they have been neglected when it comes to the sharing of the national cake. My question is, the decision to get into government, for instance, is it based on the premise of let's go and enjoy, this is our time to eat? Because we have seen members of the different ruling parties, including the UPND, that have said we have been left out, we are not reaping from our sweat. Maybe make us understand that. How does that work?
Well, the question which I immediately caught my attention was also we are not benefiting.
Yes.
And the question, very simply, is again goes back to issues of education. Okay, you don't join a political party with a view to benefit.
Okay.
No, you join a political party because you believe in what it stands for.
Okay.
For instance, at the time that I engaged politically, I would have believed in those certain things that the party stands for. And when the party deviates, I stand back.
Okay.
And I'm able to do that because I'm able to analyze the issues. Like for instance, I can tell you now that it is unreasonable for anybody to argue that things are hard. Well, that's the common sense. Things are hard. Things are very, very hard. Okay? But that's what happens when you do not invest properly.
Okay.
Even at a personal level. At a national level, our investment portfolio is suspect. By now, we should have been able to manufacture beds like Panadol, aspirin, eye drops. Yes, as a country, we should have been self-sufficient in certain forms of medications. Now we can't be importing bandages, for God's sake. 6 days after independence, what went wrong? Because we stopped thinking. We stopped planning. We stopped analyzing. Stopped playing the ball in the context of international politics and international economics. We need to go back to the drawing table and just do that. Otherwise, the circus will continue. And the circus continuing cannot help you, it can't help you. So anybody who argues that, well, it's my turn to go and enjoy, what they have done is to respond to one of the best decisions the president made when he became president, the current president. When he said that he will not allow cadarism to continue. That was the best, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
When Vasata was campaigning, I went to his center, okay, 2 days before elections were conducted.
Okay.
And the whole place was all blue, with 10 years of Rupia Banda. When he lost elections, the whole place was green.
Okay.
Same people.
Different regalia.
Different regalia. Have gone to people's homes, they have turned party regalia and clothing. So it's in their interest to go to every political party and yield as much. So they can have t-shirts to wear, kitengis to use, that kind of thing. They don't necessarily believe in what we are giving them.
Okay.
But they believe that it's an opportunity for them. So then, what issues are you campaigning on? If you say you want to proper policies, okay, we've heard so much about proper policy. So
Yes.
how can education not be a proper policy? How can the expansion of health services not be proper? So we need to unbundle and understand, what do people think? Proper does not mean safety, no. It doesn't. It doesn't mean that now you can steal as you wish, no. That is part of the problem.
Okay.
Proper, it means you must design those policies. And they must make sense. Where are those policies? So you can debunk them, understand them, appreciate them.
Now,
So for me, I think I'm happy that you invited me to that. That's a bigger issue.
Okay.
And trust me, it's bigger than this interview.
wow. Now, Mr. Mwanajiti, a follow-up question. Does this mean then, you have said we shouldn't finger point, but don't you think to a larger extent politicians from successful government are guilty to having these challenges that we currently have as a country? Politicians
Zambians who have made those politicians become whatever they become.
do the Zambians realize that?
Sometimes
The majority
I
Zambians,
don't think
do they
so.
realize that?
I don't think so, because even there are very few Zambians who understand the difference between the government and the state. Even people who go to school, they think that the two things are something. They are different. So for me, I am saying to you, if we are going to have a government, okay, the first thing is we must have a plan as a people. And our secretariat is a cabinet office.
Okay.
Okay, but do we see it that way? We don't see it that way. You go to an office, somebody is carrying a kettle to go and draw water for tea, whatever it is. Or you find somebody, unfortunately, they are selling whatever they are selling in government offices or office. Who does that? You cannot make government simple. That's our national secretariat.
Okay.
So if we don't want to keep it clean in terms of, problems which creep with its effectiveness, who do you blame? So politicians are simply taking advantage of a Zambian who is docile.
Okay.
And there are many, they come in all forms. Even those who have been abusing Zambians, they realize, okay, in fact, what has happened over time is that politics has become a haven for white-collar criminals.
Okay. I would like you to repeat that, Mr. Mwanajiti.
I'm saying politics has become a haven for white-collar criminals. People who have nothing to offer in concrete terms.
They venture into politics.
Yes, they venture into politics. What would be good, and I think that's what I would argue if I had an opportunity, is to say, look, before you can offer yourself to lead, show us what you've done. Show us what you're made of. What's your plan? You must be able to look as a party, this is our plan. This is how we intend to deal with issues.
Sector by sector.
Either sector by sector or whatever approach which Zambians agree. Remember, we have a government. So the question should be, Mr. Secretary Cabinet or whoever, this is what you want to do. How does it fit in government priorities? If it doesn't, they must be able to say that this is a problem. And there is an example, for instance, when one party got in power, they thought that the best is to dismantle the bureaus, the foreign exchange bureaus.
Okay.
But then that went against the tide of the Zambia's government policy. So the relevant bank advised, no sir, you cannot do this. But the person who was at the helm of that particular ministry understood.
Okay.
But you've also had people who think that they can always push their way and find their way. They don't know any better than just keeping it, just shouting, I want this done, and it's done. No. Let's do with a government template. Okay? And who are the custodians? Secretary of Cabinet.
Okay.
That's a very key, position in government. That's a very key position in government. So it is now for him with his peers and his other senior officials to say, this is what we want. Now, for that to work, we Zambians must buy in.
Okay.
We must say, we agree, we will support our government in the next 5 years. But we don't do that. We have a situation where elections have been held today, the next day you are campaigning.
Why is that the case? Where it seems like Zambia is always in a campaign mood.
Right.
Before, during, and after elections.
And it can only happen in an environment where people are having struggles with understanding basics. Elsewhere, people won't listen to it. They are busy with other things.
Okay.
There is one country which actually had to say, okay, for us to get people to go and vote, let's legislate. So in one country of the world, a big country, people are required to vote by law.
Okay.
But they are curing, they saw a problem, and that's what we must do. We must say, here we have a problem. How do we deal with it? International law comes to say, no, you cannot do this. Here is a framework. Those frameworks are there. The best practices are there.
Okay.
So you come back, where is our problem? And frankly speaking, we must answer that question. There's no two ways about it. We must be blunt with ourselves and say, look, this works for us. This can't work. This works for us. Let's give this a try. For instance, I would be happy to hear from anybody, from you and anyone, say, look, the Cyber Security Act is a bad law. This is why it's a bad law.
Okay.
And then we must listen. Because the person may say it's a bad law because of ABC. I was actually shocked when I heard people talk of that law as if it was a new law, when it was basically an amendment from a law which was introduced in March 2021. But because we don't want to read, we don't want to accept that certain things are done in a particular manner, we began thinking that this is a new thing.
It has been there.
It has been there. It has been there, and that's the point I'm making. Can we have people who understand where we are coming from, where we are going? Let's try also to plead with you in the media to develop better sources. Remember, when you communicate a lie and repeat it,
It becomes the truth.
that's right. And you hear children say, but we heard on radio.
Exactly.
So let's try to move to a point where, for instance, if there is a problem, you talk to an authority at the University of Zambia or University of Cabinet, whichever university. Somebody with an authority. Please, let's move away from pedestrian views. They're injurious. How can one say, look, there is no person here on earth who can qualify to be completely useless. They are useful in some way. The question is, how useful are they?
Okay.
So the moment you come, you hear somebody say, no, this government is very bad, then you must follow, okay, what makes you say that? Then they must make the case. But you won't be able to do that if you are, if you are limited in your thinking. Now that might sound insulting. It's not. I'm simply inviting people to use their God-given faculties. And I'm saying school develops it in a methodical manner, just like experience does. But the experience is two categories: bad experience and good experience. So you want to weigh on the side of, good experience away from bad experience.
Okay. Mr. Mwanajiti, I know time is never enough when you're having a productive discussion. However, as we begin to wind up, let me come to the issue of communication. There has been a concern in terms of communication under this current administration. There have been some sections of society that are saying, establish a ministry of press briefings where you'll be having press briefings every day, and that ministry will just specialize in having press briefings. There are those that are saying sometimes party functionaries and government officials issue conflicting statements. When it comes to communication, how should governments communicate to the masses effectively and efficiently to make sure that information is disseminated, is well packaged when being disseminated?
Yeah, and you raise a very important question. I think that the beginning point or challenge is political parties tend to confuse the government with their being. And the government entity is an entity for Zambians.
Okay.
The government is a government for all. The president is a president for all. This president or president.
Okay.
Now, unfortunately, a political party president is not president for all. He's a president for his party. Okay? So, once we are clear about that, we even know that we will not have a situation where a political party leader or a political party functionary from a particular party raises governmental issues. Communication by government is done by government, or government officers. Okay. Processes and procedures. Now, that's where things come to halt. When the government communicates, do you believe them? If you don't, why? I ask questions. If there was to be a job offer of, say, 20, 30 journalists to be employed from the NBC and from some unknown quantity station, where would you apply? Most likely you apply with the NBC. Okay, so I'm saying to you, it's in your interest as a Zambian citizen to have a functional government. And where things are going wrong, you have a duty to say, I need to use a particular avenue to communicate my concern on a particular issue. And you communicate that concern. So this may have a concern with this particular approach or this particular law. Now, you make the other way is to look at it as a collective.
Okay.
Which is better to raise as the concern as a person or as a part of an entity. Now, if you're going to use the political party route, the political party is good to understand how government works and to communicate. And this is where the media finds itself in a crisis, if I may say. Yes, if there is a strike, wherever it is, to have been fighting, they come to the media. What is the end result? Coverage, isn't it? Cover it. So when you've covered it, what action do you expect? So we need to reorient our people that people must know that police, the media are only police stations. Where because of afford to go to the police station. And I told some friends of yours in the media, said, okay, the cadres who came were wearing, this kind of regalia. But you and me know that criminals are put in the police uniform.
Yes.
So where is your problem? Again, you go back to the issues of education. Let's be more analytical.
As a people?
As a people, yes.
Okay.
Let's not take things for instance, the very important question raised of the American ambassador calling the press. The first question from a purely fact-finding point of view as a human rights person I would say is okay, it's a good development, but I will not allow anything to escape. Okay, if it hasn't been verified. It's as simple as that. You need to verify it. For what method was used, was gathering the information, our objective was done. Okay, and so you come to a point where you agree, which is why I say at least there is agreement on theft. Both parties have agreed there is theft.
Okay.
Where there is disagreement is on the modalities of how to do what must be done. So we are making progress.
Okay.
And I'm coming from a point of being reasonable. Because the Universal Declaration of Human Rights calls upon each citizen, each human being, to act towards the next person with reason.
Okay.
I'm assuming that when I come here, I find the people who are reasonable. So I raise issues like the ambassador done. So it would be very unfortunate, almost tragic, if government said we haven't heard anything.
Okay.
It would be unfortunate. Was there, it is. So you and me and everybody else next time we must be say, okay, fine, these issues were raised, but where are we? And from what I heard last week, yesterday, when the government was saying that the forensic court has been given to law enforcement agencies.
It was highlighted even today during the press briefing.
Yeah, okay. So the question is very simple. If they have been given that report, remember like the exciting report which comes up in terms of
the Auditor General's report, the FIC?
Yeah, that's the FIC, FIC report.
FIC report.
Yeah. The FIC report reports or contains suspicious transactions. Okay? Now a suspicion is a suspicion, meaning it must be investigated. A suspicion is not a conclusion. Okay? Similar, the Auditor General who make their reports and recommendations. Okay? They make the recommendations, there are recommendations. So if the people that are recommending find that the particular recommendation is faulty, they won't act on it.
Okay.
So, that's why I'm saying that I think we need to decide what we want as a people.
Okay.
Otherwise we push this side, that side, but the real issues keeps eluding us. Theft must be dealt with, but we must have the capacity to deal with that theft.
Okay.
We must be methodical.
Okay. As we go, Mr. Mwanajiti, your last words to my viewers out there, our viewers out there rather, regarding what we've talked about, and particularly the $1 million question. What do Zambians want moving forward?
Moving forward, clearly, Zambians, starting from various formations, political parties, clans and families, let's begin to discuss what do we want. Where do we want Zambia to be in the next 10 years?
Okay.
What is it that we can do at a personal level, corporate level, or collective level to ensure that the concerns which affect you and me, the various forms of theft, it's not only medicines,
Okay.
fertilizer, okay, challenging. It's even simple things like Musongo. Road tax. You want to build the system. So things are hard. Work hard. And you can't be avoid people complaining, no, we are being told to work hard. But there is no other alternative to working. We must work hard, work smart, and do the right thing within the four corners of the law. Let me also end by saying that those who feel and argue that there is no rule of law in Zambia, as I've heard, I think they need to visit the inside of the classroom. Because the rule of law simply means doing something according to what the law prescribes.
Okay.
Okay? Not what you think, not what you want. The law is what it is, not what you and me want. The law is what it is. And very important, no law is cast in stone.
on the Lunchtime Cafe this particular afternoon. Thank you so much for choosing us amongst many as Camnet TV. Remember, this broadcast was live on Topstar Channel 106, Facebook, YouTube, and on the Kenstream app. On behalf of my director upstairs, Mr. Chilera, and on behalf of my guest, Mr. Ngande Mwanajiti, I'm Tapelo Joe Smarter. Good afternoon and God bless.